Okay, welcome to the 14th day of Turn It On Again, Kit's Rock Review's month-long tribute to the band Genesis. And today we're going to talk about Home by the Sea and Second Home by the Sea, which come from this album, the Genesis album, which came out in 1983 when I was in all of 7th grade. Yes. Now, most bands, when they release an album and name it after themselves, it's usually their debut album. However, with Genesis, they waited until their 12th studio album, after having been together more than a decade, to name the album after themselves. But there's a reason for that. They didn't just couldn't think of a name. They actually had a reason. The Genesis album was the first album that the Genesis trio collectively wrote together. Prior to that, even with the collective songs, one of the band members would have an idea and he'd bring it to the band and they'd figure it out. But with the Genesis album, they decided they were going to all together write it from start to finish, everything on the album. No preconceived ideas. So you didn't have Tony Banks coming and saying, listen to this keyboard solo I thought up, or Mike Rutherford saying, listen to this guitar riff I have, or even Phil Collins, hey, I had a nice drum pattern, I have these lyrics that we should put in a song. No, they all came together, got in a room, Mike with his guitar, Tony with his keyboard, Phil either with his drums or the microphone, and just jammed until they came up with a whole bunch of songs. And they could do that because at this time they had bought and constructed their own recording studio called The Farm, which is in Surrey, England. And so they came up with, this is the album that they came up with after all that jamming and everything. Now, Tony Banks has actually admitted that they probably should have called it the Mama album because that's the first song on the album, and it's what everyone calls it. Everyone calls this the Mama album. By the way, this cover is from a children's toy. I don't know if you've... I used to have this... I think I had this children's toy when I was a kid, too. It has all these shapes that you can put in. It's like red and blue, and the shapes are yellow, and you put them in different... They can only go in the certain openings based on the shape. But that's what happened is the guy who was hired to produce this album cover saw his kid's toy on the floor and took a picture, and it became the album cover for the Genesis album. As I said, Tony Banks thought, as said since then, that they probably should have named it the Mama album. Anyway, if you actually have this box set, the Genesis movie box, you can, there's a documentary. I mean, this is basically a bunch of concerts that they played and filmed, but there's also a documentary on it called The Making of the Mama album, which Phil Collins, back in 1983, he bought a brand new VHS recorder and recorded the band when they were making the Mama album, or the Genesis album. It's actually kind of neat to watch. It's about an hour and a half. But you even see that Phil Collins at one point, he's filming them recording stuff, and he's like, I screwed up. I put the wrong date, because he actually had to program the date into the VHS tape. Also, if you're interested in that, if you have the Genesis 1983 to 1998 box set, which contains all their albums from that era, plus bonus features, there is actually rehearsal footage of the band, plus Daryl Stuermer and Chester Thompson rehearsing for the Mama tour, which is kind of interesting to see. But anyway, so we're not going to focus on the whole Genesis album today. I want to talk specifically about the second and the third and fourth songs that are on the album, Home by the Sea and Second Home by the Sea. To me, they are one song, even though on the album they're listed as two songs. To me, the whole 11-minute suite of Home by the Sea and Second Home by the Sea is together, and you really can't listen to one without the other. The song itself, Home by the Sea, begins, it's about a burglar who breaks into a house, and it turns out the house is haunted, and the ghosts of the house force him to listen to their story. And Genesis actually did release Home by the Sea as a single in some countries, and when they released it as a single, it was on October 31st, so they released it as a single, this ghost story, on Halloween. But to me, you can't really listen to the first part of Home by the Sea without the second part of Home by the Sea, without second Home by the Sea. The first part is a song with lyrics, and obviously the second part is mostly an instrumental. There's some lyrics at the end. But the first part, part one, ends with Phil Collins singing, and let me get my notes so I have the exact lyrics here. Sit down, sit down. Let us relive our lives in what we tell you. And when the ghosts retell their story to the narrator, it's an instrumental, which I think perfectly fits. You know, the instrumental fits the ghost's life. It's a perfectly good way to tell the story of the ghosts. And to hear that song to hear Home by the Sea without second Home by the Sea, to me, it messes things up. It's like when you sing, you do some Christmas carols and you don't sing all the verses. You know, Christmas carols have a story to them, and if you miss some of the verses, you miss out on some of the story. So if you play Home by the Sea without second Home by the Sea, you miss out on some of the story. You miss out on the lives of the ghosts, this instrumental that Genesis plays. And it's got a great, and it starts off, one of my favorite parts of it is it starts with a Phil Collins electronic drum solo, of all things. And I have that going through my head right now. I'm not going to try to sound it out for you because that just wouldn't be fair to the world. And it has a Tony Banks keyboard solo, a Mike Rutherford guitar solo. It's a complete song. Home by the Sea and Second Home by the Sea are a complete song in themselves. I want to know if you think the same thing. So I'm going to put the video for the song in the comments. You tell me what you think and let me know. Okay, so as always, until next time, keep on rocking in the free world. I'll see you later.